How's it going, everybody? Today we're talking about control settings and curves, and we're taking questions. Stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. So today is going to be a bit of a special episode. We're not going to be in actually Arena Commander doing anything today. We're going to be talking more. But this is something you guys need to understand because it's the foundation for which, every ace pilot's going to go through. And at some point, you will be, learning and applying these tactics to get the skills you need. But whatever. Point is, you want to have your controls down pat, and you want to understand what's going on, and then from there you build up, right? Your controls are your foundation, and you build up from there. So there was a question that was asked on the YouTube channel by Eric. He says, you absolutely have to do a video about strafing and throttle management. I'm very curious as to how you have your setup, your controls, what their curves are. How do you use them? I'm watching your videos, and you seem to use throttle either at 100 or 0. And your strafe is very fast and precise. How do you do that? Do you use strafe forward and back with an analog stick? So this is kind of a multi-stage question, but I'm going to explain to you guys the setup that I use, why I use it, and the mental process that I've gone through to pick those controls. So some of you already know I use dual stick, right? A lot of really top stick pilots are switching to the dual stick kind of mentality. I know Darkstar, most of the other Renegades are on dual stick as well. And the nice part about dual stick is you have complete analog control over all of your axes, especially your strafe. So as you start progressing as a pilot and you start getting more hits, you'll realize that the last 5 degrees or 1 degree of actual aim is done by your strafe stick rather than your actual aiming stick, which is on your right hand, if you're a right hand dominant person. So on my right hand I have the Warthog, and that does my pitch and my yaw. And on my left hand is the Thrustmaster T16000. And what I have on that is if I deflect the stick to the left, I strafe left. If I deflect it to the right, I strafe right. If I push it forward, I strafe up. And if I pull it back, I strafe down. So you're probably, and twist is to roll, right? So all of that is on my left stick. Now you're probably wondering, okay, where's your throttle? Well, the throttle is a bit of a special one. And this is kind of unique to me. I don't see a lot of other people doing this technique, but I find personally it works really well. My throttle is actually on my Warthog, and it's on the hat switch, either at 100 or 0. There's nothing in between. I have another hat switch, which actually allows me to have my throttle set to the specific setting that I want. But what's more important is either it goes 100 or it goes 0. And the thought process behind that was, either I'm firing my main thruster or I'm not. Do I want to get closer or do I not? And in a dogfight, it allows you to be faster. It allows you to go from 0 to 100 and back and forth. Because what you don't want to do in a dogfight, actually, is be smooth. You don't want to go nice and smooth and predictable because what ends up happening is they track you and boom, you're dead. So if you push in really fast and he's like, oh no, he's too close to me, then I drop the throttle to 0 and I reverse, and all of a sudden now I'm farther away and I'm coming in, I'm coming out, I'm coming in, I'm coming out. So it's kind of like a boxing match, and you're coming in for a jab, you're poking somebody, if some of you guys box or have seen boxing. I'm sure everyone's seen Rocky, come on. It's not as smooth as you think, because what I think is the real important part is the throttle, sorry, not the throttle, the strafe, because that's your aim. And so you've probably heard me talking before about what's known as the ACE acronym, which is ACE, which is something I came up with that I think really, really works, especially for Star Citizen, because that's what it's designed for. But A is for aim, C is for counter maneuver, and E is for evasion, right? And if you understand that the one thing that's going to win a dogfight is aim. It's the most important thing. Like it's more important than counter maneuvering, and much more important than disengaging or going evasive to dodge missiles. And so with a strafe stick, you have analog control, really fine analog control over your aim. So you've probably seen it on the streams. You know, it's laser accurate, right? You're right on the spot every time. Because with Star Citizen is we don't have a huge hitbox. We have the physical geometry of the fighter that we have to hit. His CryEngine actually doesn't do hitboxes. So you got to be pixel accurate with a stick, which is pretty difficult. You know, and ESP does the best they can. But that last little bit of fine aim is you need. If you're using digital keys, what ends up happening is you're either 100 or 0, right? Kind of like my throttle. But when you got to get that last 10 pixel shot, and you're right on the target, but you just can't seem to hit it, and you got to get that last little bit. You know, having digital keys is going to throw your shot off every time. And so if you're aiming with your stick 100% of the time, you're kind of missing the point. It should be more of a 95-5% thing. So 95% of your aim should be done with your aiming stick, which is your right hand. But the last 5%, that last little bit, should be with your strafe stick to get right on the target, right? And I know that's a bit much for people that take aim right now, and I'll probably make a video on it again. And again, you can watch the streams and try to make some sense of it. But that last little 5% should be done with your strafe stick. And having a strafe stick allows you to give that last 5% because you don't have digital keys, you have fine control over it. In terms of saturation settings, here's the drum roll. I have not touched my saturation settings at all. They are literally default settings that I had as soon as I started playing the game. The only thing that I have touched is the curve setting, which is just a standard curve. There's no S curve, there's nothing crazy, but it's a 1.2 curve. So you just go to your master setting, hit 1.2, and you're done. And that's it. I don't use any software on any Warthogs or anything like that. It's literally, I took it out of the box, I plugged it in my computer, I set to 1.2, and that is it. There's no magical way to be a really good pilot. There is no magical setting that all of us are using that gives us this huge advantage in aiming. It's not like that. What I suggest to you guys is you pick a control scheme that you like, that you feel comfortable with, and then you stick with it. You stick with it, right? Because what happens is a lot of guys, they don't get results very quickly, and then they get a little bit frustrated, and they think, you know, maybe I'll try something else, and they try something else, and they don't like it right away, and they try something else, and they don't like it right away, and all of a sudden they go through all these different setups, and they spend all this money, and they're back at square one, and they're like, why am I still not hitting? And it's because you're not giving yourself enough time to develop the muscle memory. You're not giving yourself enough time to get those kind of subconscious predictions in. So when you say, I want to go over here, your body just does it because it's done it 1,000 times, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Not everybody has the time to spend an hour and a half every day flying around in Star Citizen. And that's not what I'm saying, right? Because, yeah, it'll take time. But you're hurting yourself if you just keep on changing all the time, right? And adding all these different S-curves and all that stuff, if you haven't noticed already, ESP essentially is an automatic S-curve. So adding another S-curve on top of that I find it messes your brain up. You know, maybe I'm a simple person, but I like having just a stock curve, right? 1.2, where it just gradually goes up. It makes it predictable, and honestly, the more predictable that you can make your setup, the easier it is for you mentally to kind of connect to it and make those shots, right? But remember, 95% on your right stick, 5% on your left stick to get that last little degree of aim on the target, and you will see a huge difference right away. But I'm a huge believer in dual sticks because it allows me so much freedom and accuracy. And remember what I said before, the number one winner of any fight is the aim, not so much the counter-maneuvering. It is in tandem, like counter-maneuvering should still play a role, but the number one winner of any fight is the guy who's got the better aim, straight up, right? Because when you're in an aim duel with somebody and you're not giving him your back because it's in space, so you can reverse, you're not gonna get that. I'm going to answer a couple questions here that you guys have asked me. I hope that you guys have kind of understood why I pick the controls I do, and maybe some tips to help you guys later on down the road. But let's just answer one more question real quick here. So X-Hammy writes, can you make a guide for not losing just because you're using a cheaper ship? That's a good question. So I know I think X-Sammy mentioned he was flying an Avenger at some point, and the Avenger is not a bad fighter, right? It's not as good as a Saber or a Hornet or anything like that, and it's not really supposed to be. And then again, I fly the Gladius sometimes, and I can still go 9-0 in the Gladius. And that's not me sitting on my soapbox being like, I am the best! I think he's kind of asking the wrong question a little bit. I think he's asking, like, how do I even that playing field? Just put the time in, man. Just keep putting the time in, right? Keep putting the time in. Find a control scheme that really works for you, and work on it, right? Every day, just work on it. And stop changing the settings. Just pick a setting you like and develop your muscle memory. Develop those skills, right? It's like going to the gym every day, right? You don't just go to the gym in a week and say, well, what kind of protein should I buy to get really buff? It's like, listen, man, if you want to get results every day, just go to the gym for 20 minutes. That's all you got to do. And then the protein, all that stuff, it'll come later, right? Curves, all those things, all those little micromanaging things are stuff for when you've built the skill. You've built the skill so much that you're now fine-tuning it to really make it feel good for you. But you still need to build the foundation strong. You still need to build that base skill level before you can start changing all these other things, right? And I think people start with the wrong foot again. They start with all the curves first, and they forget that they got to build that ground zone skill. But I would definitely suggest people switch to dual sticks. I mean, if you're in space, right? You have all these directions to go, and having control over all those directions on an analog setting, so you can go 5%, 10%, 20%, however much you want to go, is amazing, right? I'm a big believer in the more control you have, like fine analog control you have over your fighter, the better you'll be. The harder it will be at the start, for sure. But in the end, it's going to be way, way, way better. And that's true for a lot of these interactive mode gimbal users. Is they get results really quick, right away, but all of a sudden they forget that they got guys that are flying like me and some of the other guys in Renegade who are flying with stick for 3 years now, and we don't lose against them. And they're probably like, "Oh, this doesn't make any sense." Well, it's because we have the fine analog control. We can maneuver way, 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 way better, and now we have good guns and powerful guns, and it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. We'll take one more question. So Michael McAdam writes, "Hey guys, can you do a video on tactics for less maneuverable ships like the Cutlass? Love these videos, by the way. Excellent material." Right? So, Michael, yes. I mean, that's all I can say is yes. We're gonna do a video after we've done what I want to do is after we've done all the basics, right? And I've got you guys, a baseline to deal with. Your controls have been figured out, which is kind of this video, is I'm explaining some controls and why I use the controls I do. And we'll do more Q&A. If you have more questions, guys, write them down and we will answer them as best we can. But yeah, we want to do a video on each individual fighter and each individual fighter's tactics. And I realize that sometimes fighters will probably change from patch to patch, so I'll probably have to keep updating them. But you know what? At this point, I don't want to keep waiting for the game to develop to that point where I make a video and it becomes obsolete. If it takes a year for the ship to change, and that video can help people within that year, to me it's worth it. I'll make another video. It's fine. But guys, we're out of time. We've been doing this for actually quite a while here. I hope I answered some of your questions, and I hope you guys have a little bit more insight onto the controls that I use, and the fact that I don't use any saturation settings or anything like that. And the biggest takeaway I want you guys to get is stick with your controls, right? Pick controls that you really like and just stick with them. And the skill will come, right? So again, guys, I really appreciate it. And just before we go, last video I put a little link in the description. It was a little girl who's 9 years old, and she has cancer. And I put the link in the description and asked you guys to help out. I know sometimes it's maybe not the best idea to put it in YouTube videos like this, but I personally felt that we can make a difference in this girl's life. And I gotta say, guys, we raised, with your guys' help and the Star Citizen community, we raised almost $20,000 in 24 hours. If you look at the chart, that is awesome, guys. To me, it makes all stuff like this worth it, and I'm really, really happy that you guys stepped in. So for those of you guys who did step in and did support, thank you. Thank you. It means a lot, right? Okay, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. put some likes in the description if you guys have feedback, please. And you can always catch me on Spectrum and whatnot. And I will see you guys in the next video.